Hello everyone, this is Hazard Racing, and today I'm going through my 2023 season predictions. The season is almost here, the long winter break is almost over, so let's get straight into my drivers and constructors standings predictions. Let's get started with the bottom of the constructors standings. 10th place this season I've put Williams. I don't see any improvements, even though the new team boss James Vowles, who's now on your screen, Mercedes strategist, of course, last season. But Logan Sargent barely made it in, and if you don't know, he literally only just made it in the last race. He had to perform in Abu Dhabi last year to get enough super license points to be able to get his super license and be able to be signed by Williams for this season. And you'll see where I put the Williams pairing later on in the video when I do the driver standing. In 9th place, just above Williams, I've put AlphaTauri. They were 9th last season. I don't see any improvement as Gasly has left. I think Gasly was a key asset for that team, as he has the experience compared to Yuki Tsunoda. I only see it going downhill, even though they've got their new driver, Nick De Vries, the Formula E champ, of course. You'll see where I put him later on, but I think it'll be a pretty tough season for the AlphaTauri group. On to 8th place now. Last season they were 6th. This season I've put Alfa Romeo in 8th place. I think everyone will be more competitive this season, as it's been a year since the major technical regulations that changed the cars, how they look and perform. So I think everyone else will be more closer, and I think teams such as AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo may miss out on many points because of this. I see other teams improving, and maybe some teams such as Alfa Romeo not. So I think they'll find themselves out of the points on many occasions this season. In 7th place, I have put Haas. Haas is one of those competitors who I think will improve, with Nico Hülkenberg as well. But they won't be any higher, as they will be. I think it's unpredictable really for their season, with returning driver and a driver that's just come back as well, like Hülkenberg, Kevin Magnussen, just coming back to the sport after a year out. But Hülkenberg has had many years out, so I don't know how it will work for him. But I think it will bring success to the Haas F1 team, and that they can secure 8th place this season, maybe even a bit higher. On to 6th place now, where I have put Alpine. Last season they were 4th place, but this season I put them 6th because, like I said with Alfa Romeo, more competition. Last season they lost 2 drivers, Alonso and Piastri. Alonso going to Aston Martin and Piastri going to McLaren. But they did get Gasly from AlphaTauri. Like I said before, that's the reason why I put AlphaTauri so low. Teammates before have not got on very well, and there could be a bit of a rivalry, but there hasn't been much said about how they're getting along as teammates now. So it's a bit unknown about Alpine really for now. It's time for the top 5. Last season they were 7th. This season I've put Aston Martin in 5th. They say that they've got 90% new parts and 95% different aerodynamic surfaces. I trust that these changes will work for the Aston Martin, and they will be a solid midfield runner, maybe even near the top. Like I've put them solidly in the midfield. They could be a podium contender, Alonso getting podiums, and even Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll, last time he got a podium in Sakir 2020. But this could be a familiar sight if these improvements work as well as we think they will. In 4th place now I've put McLaren. I think it will be a huge loss with Andreas Seidel leaving, but they already know their new team boss, as he has come through the ranks of McLaren. Andreas Stella has come through the ranks, but I think there's a lot of potential in this team for 2023, and they won't lose all competitiveness at all with Andreas Stella leading them. They could be a podium contender really. Their last podium, Imola 2022 with Lando Norris. But this could be a very promising year for them. I think in Oscar Piastri in his first year, what can he do? And you'll see where I'll put him later on in this video. Getting that bronze medal for me is Mercedes. Mercedes last season they were 3rd as well. But I put them back in 3rd as I think the top 3 will trade wins. And they didn't understand their car at the start of the season, but they will this season. But I think in a few instances other cars will be faster, and they will lack on the strategy as well, as they lost their head of strategy, James Vowles, to Williams. Just beating Mercedes and just losing out on the title is Ferrari. I've put them 2nd this season. Last season they were 2nd. They'll be the main title contender. They'll be faster than last season. They'll trade wins with Red Bull, I believe. And you'll see where I put the Ferrari pairing later on in the video in the driver standings, which isn't that far away. I think Leclerc will be the favourite, of course, with Vasseur being the old Alfa Romeo boss. Of course, in 2018, they were both at Alfa Romeo. I think it'll be a very strong year for Ferrari in the end, but ultimately they'll miss out on the constructors' standings. First place, that leaves Red Bull. Red Bull is always going to stay at the top this year, I think, in my opinion, with improvements to the engine and reliability. Of course, last season wasn't amazing, so there must have been reliability upgrades. Max will be ready to fight, and I think that's all there really is to say about Red Bull. They'll be ready, they'll be faster than ever before, and they'll be ready for the fight from Ferrari and Mercedes this year. Before we go to the driver standings, a quick rundown of who we've put where. 10th place Williams, 9th place AlphaTauri, 8th place Alfa Romeo, 7th place Haas, 6th place Alpine, 5th place Aston Martin, 4th place McLaren, 3rd place Mercedes, 2nd place Ferrari, and 1st place Red Bull. Let's get on to the driver standings right now. Let's get started with the driver standings. 20th place Logan Sargent. Last season he was in Formula 2, he finished 4th in there. He's a rookie with a lot of pressure really, as Williams need performance, and also because he's the only American driver on the grid. So that's a lot of pressure with more and more fans from America and more races on the calendar. 3 races this year in America. So there will be a lot of fans rooting for him, and I think it'll bring a lot of pressure. 3 home races could bring a lot of pressure. And will he do well under that pressure? I don't know. That's why I've put him 20th place. 19th place is Yuki Tsunoda. Last season he was 17th. With what I think will be a worse car than last year's, Yuki Tsunoda is a person that hasn't really performed in Formula 1 yet. And this will probably be his last year if he can't perform this year. This will probably be his last. But I think I don't know. I think the car will be absolutely terrible this year. I don't think he'll be good as they hope. But this could also go really wrong because this is obviously before pre-season testing. In 18th place is Guan Yu Zhou. Last season he was 18th as well. I think he'll improve as a driver and maybe outperform Bottas. But overall, I think the car will be worse than last year. So that's why he is 18th place for me. Alex Albon, last season he was 19th. This season I've put him 17th. He'll get more points as I think the car will improve slightly. But of course not for Logan Sargent. But not a lot, of course, because I've put him in 17th and Williams in 10th. But I think he'll get more points and it'll be more often than he did. Of course, last season he got 4 points. With the new team principal, of course, he'll obviously want to impress. And the strategy should be better than they used to be. 16th place, I put Nick de Vries. Last season he was in Formula E. A few seasons ago he was a Formula E champion. Of course, he's new to F1, but has lots of racing experience, like I just mentioned. Formula E champion. He's also a Formula 2 champion. Last season, he had his only race in Monza in a Formula 1 car. Of course, because Alex Albon was off during that race. He finished in the points as well, equaling Latifi's at the end of the season. Valtteri Bottas is in 15th. Last season he was 10th. Last season he had a good start to the season, but a terrible end. And I think it could happen again. Ready for a new season. But I think this time, good is defined as points, and terrible is defined as 15th place or below. I don't think Alfa Romeo will be as good this season, like I've said before, with Guan Yu Zhou and Alfa Romeo being so low. I think he will be outside the points more often this season. 14th place is Nico Hülkenberg, of course, returning to Formula 1. Last race was in 2019 at Renault. This season he's at Haas. I see Haas improving more this season, more than others. And Hülkenberg is, of course, has a lot of experience in this sport. And he's still yet to get that podium, of course. Longest run without a podium in Formula 1 history. I think he will need another season if he was going to get that podium with Haas, if he even will get a podium in his career. Kevin Magnussen is in 13th, and last season he was 13th as well, just beating his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. Haas will get regular points this season, as it will truly be more compact, the midfield, with, all that weight saving and black on the car. Haas will be regular points, even if it is just 10th to 7th place. I think it will be good points and it will be regular for them. Pierre Gasly is 12th place. Last season he was 14th. Gasly, of course, moving away from the Red Bull family to Alpine, an all-French team, an all-French lineup, alongside Ocon. I think it's the best for his career, and so do many others. However, things might be a bit sour between his teammates as they have openly talked about their hatred for each other, but I think it will get better over the season. 11th place is Lance Stroll. Last season he was 15th. A new and improved car, as I was talking about in the constructors' standings. I think the new parts will boost Lance Stroll all the way up to 11th place. And you'll see where I put Fernando Alonso later, his teammates. I think it will be regular points and maybe even podium contenders. The start of the top 10, I've put Ocon. Ocon last season was 8th place. Of course, I've put that Alpine lower down this season. Of course, he's with Gasly as well this season. I think the car will be less competitive this year. He will outperform his new teammate, of course, as he has experience with the team. And Gasly's one of the drivers that we don't really know how good he actually is in the car that he's been driving, because he's never really had a good teammate. He's had Kvyat, which is he wasn't amazing, and Yuki Tsunoda in his first 2 years, which isn't really much you can say about as competitors go with Gasly. So I think he'll outperform Gasly there and find himself out of the point. Oscar Piastri is 9th place. Last season he was Alpine reserve. His new team, of course, McLaren, after that Alpine mess up on Twitter, they announced him as their driver for 2023, but he replied saying that he hasn't even signed a contract with Alpine and has actually signed with McLaren. Oscar has actually won the Formula 2 and Formula 3 championship in back-to-back years, and this has meant Alpine lost 2 drivers in the same year, with Fernando Alonso in 8th place going to Aston Martin. Last season, Alonso was 9th place. Huge improvement in the car, as I've said before, but only 8th, as I think the midfield is very fierce and McLaren will edge them out throughout the season. It will be hard to get points, though, as it will be more close in the midfield, but I think he'll get more points and be on that podium more often. 7th place is Sergio Perez. Ferraris will be more consistent, and so will the Mercedes, really. He won't be as consistent as he was a few seasons ago. Perez can find himself out of the top 5, even top 6 on many occasions. But even though I'm predicting him to be 7th, I still think he'll win. Hope he will get that win in Mexico. 6th place is Lando Norris. Maybe a little biased as I'm a Lando Norris fan. Last season he was 7th. I see a lot of potential in McLaren this year and Lando this year. Again, this is before pre-season testing, so if the car is good, then maybe this could be right. But apparently they haven't got to the right upgrades on before the first few races, so this could be bad, and McLaren could not be as where I'm putting them. But I think they'll have consistency and consistently be running near the podium or on the podium. 5th place is Lewis Hamilton. Even though I see podiums for Lewis, I think he'll be 5th place, losing out to his teammate again, George Russell. This season, I don't think he'll be as consistent as he once was, and this prediction could go badly. He could be higher up, as this before pre-season testing. 4th place now is George Russell, beating his teammate Lewis Hamilton in his first season, and I predict that again. I think Mercedes will be doing well this season, as you know they've gone back to black and a full carbon fiber car basically. I reckon he'll just miss out on 3rd place, and he will consistently be on a podium from the drivers that I've put ahead of him, such as Carlos Sainz, who I've put in 3rd place. For last season he was 5th. He'll be more consistent, and Ferrari can count on him more. He'll be there for Ferrari, and he can pick up scraps of battles that have gone badly from 1st or 2nd. He will have more wins and more podiums this season. There's a lot of potential with Carlos Sainz this year. I think it'll go very well, though, for him this year. 2nd place, I see Charles Leclerc being 2nd. Last season he was 2nd. I see him missing out again, but he'll be closer this season. Trade wins throughout the season with Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz and even George Russell, but ultimately falling short of being a world champion. 1st place, I've put Max Verstappen. He is a 2-time world champion, and as I see it, he'll be adding one more to his collection. At the end of the season, he broke the record for the most wins in a season, 15. And whether you like that or not, he did. and that might never be broken unless there is a driver as dominant and the calendar is something like 30 races or something crazy like that. He's as dominant as someone like Michael Schumacher or Lewis Hamilton in his prime. I think he'll do it this season, and as I said, improved Red Bull, so more chances to win. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Tell me what you think what will happen this year in the comments. But that is it for this video. You might enjoy others, so go check out my channel. Goodbye.